If you want to go down this path of having a goal of doing 100 transactions, the first mental map that you have to get really clear on is that it's going to come from listings, like period, end of story.
10 out of 10 were primarily listing agents. It's a lot easier to manage 10 listings than it is to manage 10 buyers.
It's like a holy grail, you know what I'm saying? If you could do 100 deals in a calendar year, it's like winning the Super Bowl, you know, for being a real estate agent. And if you could do it consistently over an extended period of time, it's just demonstrated excellence, right? Wherever you see results over an extended period of time, there's a system behind it. You want to set goals based on the person that you will have to become in order to accomplish them. Because if you think like doing 100 deals is going to drastically change your life in some way, I promise you, nobody at Dunkin' Donuts is going to be like, oh my God, here's Jose. He did 100 deals this year. Like the guy you cut off is still going to flick you the bird. You know what I'm saying? Like not that much is going to change. Mm-hmm. What will change though is who you are as an individual. There's two groups of people. There's people that you know and people that you don't know. The question is which one's bigger? If you want to get to 100, you have to get very, very good at speaking to the group that you don't know. And that comes with nauseating, disgusting amounts of role play and practice, right? When I first met Jose, he went on like 100 appointments and took like 20 listings or something crazy like that. Like it was a very small number. And it's because he was working with buyers previously. He didn't have the skill set of being able to work with sellers in high volume. Didn't know what to say, how to say it, didn't know how to close, didn't know how to do those things. We spent a lot of time together. And then he went from doing that, having to go on appointments twice to get listings, only having a 25% closing ratio to having like an 80 to 90% closing ratio. And his amount of listing inventory jumped dramatically from listing 20 homes in a year to like 50 to like 70.
It's a skill set that you have to learn. It's not something that I possessed, but it's a skill that you can learn. It was funny because I was listening to a podcast today and the guy said that Michael Jordan was so fanatical about practicing that he would rather miss a game than to miss practice.
Yeah.
It talked about like a Kanye West too. One of his first albums, College Dropout, on one of his songs, he says like, spend 3 summers locked in a room, like basically producing 5 beats a day or something like that. So meaning like practicing. I have an agent right now that she's making the phone calls, but I could just see the conversations that she's having. And it's almost like she's losing money, not losing money, but the business is just kind of like going through her fingertips because she has no idea what to say and how to say it because she's not practicing, basically.
You just put more time and energy effort in, right? So I role play twice a day, 6 days a week for 3 years. That will speed up the learning curve. You see, it's easier to start things. It's very difficult to finish them. Most people are really good at starting things and they get really excited. Uninformed optimism. They see somebody like Jose or me doing all these deals and like, oh man, this is fantastic. People making all this money. Like, this is great. Then they get in it and they start to do it. And then they end up with informed pessimism. Oh, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. And then they end up in what would call like the valley of despair, which is like, I don't know, maybe this isn't for me. And then you know what most people do there? They find something else to get excited about. So if you're going to go down this path, like you need to be a finisher. It's not going to be easy. And I'm glad it's not, because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Here's another idea that I rejected. Like I remember I was getting stuck at a certain production. I'm like, okay, well, Aaron's at 150 to 200 deals a year or over 100. And I'm like, I'm spending a lot of times checking my email. Like, and I would get caught up in that black hole. I would go in there and I spend 2-3 hours just replying back to people or clearing it out. And it's funny because you told me, he's like, look, you need to delegate that. So I delegated it to my wife. My wife checks all the emails. Whenever there's something that needs my attention, she sends me a text message, says, hey, this is something that you need to get back to, or this is something that requires your attention. I reply back and then that's it. I don't check emails. It was funny because my brother-in-law, he does about 20 deals a year. I gave him the same advice and he was pushing back. He was like, well, what if they don't do it correctly? Well, yeah. What if something gets messed up? What if this? I'm like, Jaime, I'm telling you, bro, this is going to be one of the best things you ever do. He does it to his girlfriend, his current girlfriend. He's like, bro, like this is like one of the best things I've ever done. But it's that process of learning how to let go of things that are lower dollar productive and focusing on the higher productive. Imagine if you're spending 3 hours a day checking email and you can delegate that for $10, $15 an hour. Imagine if you spend those 3 hours prospecting, or instead of those 3 hours, you spent it with your kids. So here's what I tell people. Me and you can work the same amount of hours in a week, but why are the results completely different? Meaning, why is it that I'm able to make X amount of money and you're making $100,000 in a year when we're working the same amount of time? The thing is that I'm focusing on income producing activities and you're focused on lower dollar per hour activities.
No matter how much hustle, no matter how much grind, you can only grow to the proportion that your systems will allow you to. If you took 15 listings this month, would your life fall apart? For most people, the answer is yes. If you had 15 pendings right now, 10 pendings, would your life fall apart? For most people, the answer is yes, because your current system is not set up to handle that level of volume, whether that be listing coordinators, transaction coordinators, standard operating procedures, and checklists on who does what, right? So part of getting to 100 deals a year, those mental maps that we just mentioned, and also understanding that you can only grow to the proportion that your systems will allow you to, and putting that system in place before you actually need it. Because I can make a decision if I want to be one of the mediocre many or the fantastic few. I made $13,000 my first calendar year. Jose, didn't sell a home for 6 months, right?
Yeah.
He went on 100 listing appointments and took 20 of them. What the fantastic few do, though, is when they're in the valley of despair, they're like, you know what? This is hard. I think I can do it, though. And I'm going to finish. I'm going to see it through. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to see it through. Whoever I need to get proximity to, if it requires, it's crazy to me, bro. We do a role play thing. Me, you, John Sai, all $1 million a year GCI guys. It's free. And there's 40 people that show up to that thing. I'm just aware that so few people are actually committed. I had a mentor one time tell me hey man, it's actually not that difficult to get rich. I said, why? He's like, because there's very few people that are actually trying. I think people listen to these scripts and they think it's just bro, there's a lot of meaning underneath. Yes. There's a lot of intentionality. There's a lot of purpose. There's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of thought behind what it is that we're doing. Out of an abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You see how when we're on calls and people are like, yeah, teach me verbatim what to say. And I always try to bring people to this. I always try to help them to understand what's happening. And this is why. And I can say it the same way, but what's in my heart, bro? Do I actually believe that I'm a consultant and I'm here to collaborate and I'm here to help you self-discover? Or do I believe that I'm the authority and you should listen? It's a spiritual truth, but it's also a material truth because we get meaning and purpose from there, right? So, they were all uptight about hey, what you're eating and it's unclean. And what did he say to them? Hey, it's not what you put in your mouth that defiles you. It's what comes out of your heart. So if what's in my heart is me and my focus is me and me and me, what comes out?
Me.